Good morning. Welcome to Carmel Valley Community Chapel on this, thank God, the last day of Car Week. I want to thank Jody Parsons for being our liturgist this morning. Thank you, Jody. And Susan Estes for bringing some wonderful refreshments for us. So don't rush off. Spend some time with some good food and good conversation. And thanks to Holly Thompson for being the deacon to the diaspora every Sunday morning. At this point, I invite all who are able to please stand and join responsively in the call to worship printed in the bulletin.
As a mother hen gathers her young around her,
so too does wisdom shelter us in the shadow of her wings. As a woman celebrates when the lost coin has been found, so too does wisdom rejoice when she finds compassion in the hearts of her children.
As Mary recognized human need at the wedding feast in Cana and made it known to her child,
so too is wisdom moved by the needs of her people and makes them known to us. Sister Wisdom, be with us, guide us, empower us on this path to justice, wholeness, and peace. Let us join together in singing our opening hymn, the words to which are in the song sheet this morning, Come and Seek the Ways of Wisdom. The tune that you will hear will be a very familiar one, and it'll make you feel like it's Christmas time. Please be seated. At this point in the service, I invite us all to join together in a few moments of silent prayer and meditation. I invite you to take this time to center your hearts, your minds, your bodies, and your spirits into this here and now that we are sharing. After a little bit of time has gone by, I'll play a short musical meditation to bring us back into the flow of our liturgy. Let us join together now in silent meditation. The lectionary theme in the UCC calendar for today has to do with wisdom and the wisdom tradition. One of the readings this morning is from the book of Proverbs, where Lady Wisdom is enticing the young men to come to her and learn how to live good and wise living. I did not choose any of the lectionary readings this morning for our text. Instead, I followed this theme of wisdom in a little different direction. Our reading this morning is from the Gospel of Truth. How many people are familiar with the Gospel of Truth? I'm not surprised. It's not in the Bible. The Gospel of Truth is known to us in two manuscripts that were discovered at Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in the middle of the 20th century. And there are some significant differences between the two manuscripts that were found there. And we also have a reference to the Gospel of Truth by the late 2nd century Bishop Irenaeus. And all of that suggests that the Gospel of Truth was probably fairly well known in the 2nd century. But it was not chosen to be included in the biblical canon. We do not know the name of the author of the Gospel of Truth. But many scholars believe that the author was someone named Valentinus, who was a 2nd century teacher and visionary who followed Jesus and acquired a large following among some of the Jesus groups in Rome. It is even possible, although we're not sure how historically accurate this is, but there is some information leading us to believe that there was a group of Jesus people in Rome that wanted Valentinus to become the bishop of Rome. Not sure about that. Unlike the Gospels we're familiar with in the Bible, this is not a recounting of the life of Jesus. It is not even the sayings of Jesus. What this is really a sermon about Jesus and what it means to follow Jesus. The date for the origin of this text is guessed to be anywhere between 80 CE and 160 CE, though most scholars put it sometime in the 2nd century. The translation you're going to be hearing this morning is from a book called A New Testament by Hal Taussig. And in that book, Taussig writes, quote, "Without ignoring issues of conflict and difficulty, the Gospel of Truth is perhaps the most joyous and ecstatic book from early Christianity. It provides a stunning contrast to the kinds of 21st century Christianity that feature condemnation and dark prophecies." So we're going to hear just a snippet from the Gospel of Truth.
The Gospel of Truth, chapter 17, verses 10 through 16. Speak of the day from above, which has no night, and of the perfect light that does not set. Say then from the heart that you are the perfect day, and within you dwells the light that never ends. Speak of the truth with those who seek it, and of knowledge with those who miss the mark through their transgressions. Strengthen the feet of those who stumble, and stretch out your hands to those who are weak. Feed those who are hungry, and give rest to the weary. Raise those who wish to arise, and awaken those who sleep, for you all are understanding drawn forth. If strength does these things, strength becomes even stronger. Here ends the reading.
Let us join together now in singing hymn number 408 in the hymnal, the gift of love. The gospel of truth begins with the declaration. The good news, that is the gospel, of truth is joy for those who have received grace from the Creator of the truth. Hal Taussig writes, quote, "The first words of this document convey the power of the whole document, which brims with a sense of aliveness, engagement, contemplation, and inner richness." End quote. Now, while the text uses what we would consider to be traditional male images for God, like Father and Son, along with almost exclusively masculine pronouns for the divine, within it, there are also moments when something surprisingly more inclusive shows up. For example, in the Gospel of Truth, chapter 10, verses 5 and 6, begins very traditional. The Word of the Father walks in creation as the fruit of his heart and the face of his love. It bears all things and chooses all things, and it receives the face of all things and purifies them, bringing them back to the Father, to the Mother, Jesus of boundless sweetness. And several chapters later, in chapter 26, we read, "This is the way of those who hold something of the immeasurable greatness from above. They stretch toward the full one alone, who is a mother for them. And the Father is within them, and they are in the Father. They are full and undivided from the one who is truly good." End quote. And here, while it's making a reference to the one who is truly good. In the context of the reading, it's really talking more about oneness than it is about an individual. Indeed, the meditation in the bulletin this morning from the Gospel of Truth says, faith came for this reason, to dissolve division and bring the warm fragrance of love. Part of the excerpt from chapter 26 sounds an awful lot like the Gospel of John. Yet this gospel is very different theologically from the Gospel of John. The Jesus presented in the Gospel of John says, I am the light of the world. While in the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, and Luke, Jesus says, you are the light of the world. Shine. The Gospel of Truth, in this regard, sides with Mark, Matthew, and Luke on this. It says, you are the perfect day, and within you shines the light that never ends. And then the reading we heard from today moves into our calling to love one another and to work together to create a more just, more peaceful, more loving society. In words that are reminiscent of some other traditional benedictions, reminiscent of the prophet Isaiah, the Gospel of Truth says, speak the truth with those who seek it. I love the word with. I'm always curious, a little word like that, why speak of the truth with those who seek it? Why not speak of the truth to those who seek it? I think if it is important, that word with, which I think it isn't about telling someone what the truth is. It is about sharing your truth, and alongside with that sharing, hearing the truth of others. You're sharing truth with those who seek both to know it and to share it. And the word knowledge comes up many times in this gospel, as it did in our reading today. And knowledge in this context is not book knowledge. It's not knowing facts. It's not even knowing what's right, although I think that gets a little closer at what we're talking about. It's not a head trip. It is about embodied wisdom, experiential knowledge. It's like I have known Jennifer for almost the whole time I've been here, because very shortly after I came to the chapel, I think you found us and you joined. And I know the kind of person Jennifer is because of many, many interactions over the years. And I can say the same thing with many of you. That's the kind of knowledge that comes from experience, that comes from relationship, and is not about facts, but is about us knowing one another well enough that we can relax, we can be ourselves, we can trust one another. So, what is your truth? What way of being in the world is so profoundly meaningful to you that if Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or Allah or God herself were to appear to you and say, no, that isn't true, you would firmly reply, yes, it is. I think that there has to be something that is so profoundly meaningful to us that's the essence of what it means for us to be who we are, And we live out of that truth with complete acceptance. And how we do that, according to our reading for today, is we say our truth with our actions, our way of being in the world. And the reading for today jumps from the idea of truth and says, strengthen those who stumble and those who are weak. Feed the hungry. Don't just bless them and send them away. Give rest to the weary. And then it says, raise those who wish to rise and awaken those who sleep. I almost hear a rather modern day idea of don't do something to someone without their permission. Raise those who wish to rise. It's not just raise everybody up. And awaken those who sleep. I wonder if the author might have said those who wish to wake up. Let me share a brief story about the Buddha. It is said that after his enlightenment, the Buddha passed a man on the road. And this man was struck by the extraordinary radiance and peacefulness of his presence. And the man stopped and asked him, "My friend, what are you? Are you a celestial being or a god?" "No," said the Buddha. "Well, then, are you some kind of magician or wizard?" Again, the Buddha answered, "No." "Are you a man?" Buddha said, "No." And then this person says, "Well, my friend, what then are you?" Buddha replied, "I am awake." You see how his action of being awake expressed his essence of being awake, that transcended whether he was a person even. And then our reading for today ends by saying to do all these things, caring for one another, creating a better society, do all these things, for you are understanding drawn forth. Do this and strength becomes even stronger. This kind of understanding, knowledge, wisdom is something that dwells in the body and in the essence of who we are. And not us as individuals only, but the corporate body that we are home to. I'm going to end with an illustration that I found in a book by Jack Kornfield, A Path with Heart. And it's a story about the Cambodian monk, Mahagosananda. Kornfield writes that, quote, "I saw one of the clearest examples of teaching presence demonstrated in the Cambodian refugee camps. I was with Mahagosananda, an extraordinary Cambodian monk, one of the few to survive, when he opened a Buddhist temple in a barren refugee camp of the Khmer Rouge communists. There were 50,000 villagers who had become communists at gunpoint and had now fled the destruction to camps on the Thai border. In this camp, the underground Khmer Rouge camp leaders threatened to kill any who would go to the temple. Yet on its opening day, more than 20,000 people crowded into the dusty square for the ceremony. These were the sad remnants of families, an uncle with 2 nieces, a mother with only one of her 3 children. The schools had been burned, the villages destroyed, and in nearly every family, members had been killed or ripped away from them. I wondered what he could say to people who had suffered so greatly. Mahagosananda began the service with the traditional chants that had permeated village life for 1,000 years. Though these words had long been silenced for 8 years of war and the temples destroyed, they still remained in the hearts of these people whose lives had known as much sorrow and injustice as any on earth. Then Mahagosananda began teaching one of the central verses of the Buddha, first in Pali and then in Cambodian, reciting the words over and over, "Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law." And as he chanted these verses, and over thousands began to chant with him, they chanted and wept. It was an amazing moment, Cornfield says, for it was clear that their hearts longed for this forgiveness and healing like a parched desert. And it was clear that the presence of this monk and the truth he chanted was even greater than the sorrows they had to bear. End quote. I can't help but thinking what's going on in the Middle East today. In Ukraine. The divisions in American society. Boy, we talk about that way too much, don't we? Because we experience it way too much. This beautiful, hopeful ending of this story where they are chanting all together after all they have suffered. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. I mean, I find that very emotionally moving. But it's not the core. The core is what made that possible. The core is these people suffering and choosing to find a place of safety. You know that they had to support one another to do that. They had to share what little they had, or no one would have survived. Then they had to build some kind of temple. They had to support one another, encourage one another to show up and not to live in fear of what might happen if they showed up. There were many, many little steps of strengthening those who were weary that led to that lovely moment of truth at the end. And I think that is what our reading for today is calling us to. All the little things we can do to be a community that is inclusive and loving, open to the world, accepting of one another's differences, and that finally finds a way to stop hating and to focus on loving. May it be so today.
Let us share what we have, thankful for the love and wisdom we experience. Let us join together in the blessing of our gifts. God, through the offering of these gifts, may we become a more open people, open-minded in hearing your word and wisdom, open-hearted in healing a broken world, open-handed in heeding your call for charity and enacted love. With thanks for all good gifts, we present a portion of our substance and the whole of ourselves. Amen.
Please be seated. At this point in the service, I invite us all into a time of sharing our joys and our concerns with the community. If there's anything you'd like to share, please get my attention. I'll bring the microphone to you. If there's any way in which we might join in solidarity after your sharing, let us know by giving us a phrase that we can repeat with you. I have some good news. Peter Meckel is scheduled to return home on Tuesday. So yay for Peter. And let's continue to keep him in our thoughts and prayers for his healing and recovery, and hope that the move back home goes smoothly. God, hear our prayers. Is there anything folks wish to share this morning? Diane.
A wonderful service today. The message was just beautiful, and the words, we just really need that message right now. Things are so stressful, and thank you so much, and the beautiful music.
Thanks, Diane. You know, I just couldn't help but thinking when I was playing the Mozart, how every note in that piece supports where we get to at the end. It's just like the sermon. I mean, you know, what I think the Gospel of Truth was talking about, and the music of Mozart lived it out, for me anyway. Whitney.
If we're talking to keep up with the theme of healing, my dad is much better right now. You might remember a few times a little while ago, he's been actually he got COVID in the beginning of June, and he got out of the hospital and over COVID fairly quickly, but has been in skilled nursing ever since then, basically, so about 2 months now. And, you know, last time I was here, he just didn't seem to be getting better, you know, and then now this time I've come, he's gotten a lot better.
Great.
And so I think that we're actually able to start talking about when he can go back, you know, to his normal residence. He's gotten a lot stronger, his cognition is back, and stuff like that. So very happy about that, because after the last visit, I was really worried about it.
Yeah. Well, so happy that he's turned the corner.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Whitney. Jen?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for that, the sermon today. Really so helpful to be centering. It helps to center me. It seems like ever since Tom had his little mini stroke, I've been totally off center. I don't know. It's just been really hard for me to find my center again. I think maybe my own PTSD was triggered by it. You know, it's really hard to love.
It's a journey.
It is a journey. And to follow that up, I just want to ask for prayers for our church that has been here for so long, that we can continue to find a way to meet the needs of our world and our community and be a support for one another through the coming years. Yeah. So I pray to God for that.
Yeah. God, Hear our prayers. Yes. Wayne and Christy? Okay.
So some of you might have wondered what the scribbling on the wall is over in the annex. We had a strategic planning meeting yesterday, and there's a number of ideas about ways to help the church, and I put some colored little Post-its there, and if you go over and read some of those, and Jen had them printed out in through the computer, and just put a tab there, and that just increases our participation in finding ways to thrive and survive in this world, so in this community. So after, and of course Susan Estes has got great refreshments for us, so we could also imbibe as well. So
Thanks, Wayne.
I'd like to follow that up a
Yes,
little bit, 'cause
Jen.
I was going to wait until, announcements to talk about this, but I just wanted to talk about, we had a meeting yesterday, and we were addressing the issue of our shrinking community and our aging community here in our church, with no new or younger membership filling the gaps. So just to kind of clarify what Wayne was talking about. So we discussed the adaptive challenges, the existential challenges in the current times, and the impact on our traditional church format, and how can we meet the needs of the community. So we talked about how to meet the current spiritual needs of our community, including incorporating, changing what we're offering to a more progressive Christianity, spiritual versus traditional ideology. And we addressed other possibilities like shared facilities usages, repurposing the facilities, cohort strategies, ways of increasing membership, things that we've been talking about for probably the past 10 years. But I think we're at a point of crisis now where we really need to look hard at some of these ideas. And so that's what we have. We have on the wall some Post-its talking about these various areas of strategic planning, and we would really encourage and invite everyone to give us their thoughts on what we're talking about here. I'm also going to be sending this message out to the entire church community so that those that are not present here at church today can be a part of this whole discussion. Wonderful. So let's just pray for our church and for, a vision.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Last night it was about 8:30, and I was leaving the office here, and I ran into some people in the parking lot. And they said, "Excuse me, are you the pastor?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Oh, well, we grew up here as little kids." And they had been here when Don Johnson was the minister. Don Johnson left in 82 or 83, so it's been a while. And it was Kent and Ashley. They didn't give their last names, and I didn't have the presence of mind to ask. I'm proud I can even remember the first, actually. They also got married here in this church. And, what a wonderful sense of history is here, not just with us, but out there in the world. And here these people that haven't been here for 30 years or more are here. I don't know whether they were here for Car Week or what, but it was lovely to just have a little interaction with them. I encouraged them to come this morning, though. Apparently unsuccessfully. Is there any other joys or concerns folks would like to share? Lamont.
Thank you, Rick, for just this whole event. I mean, it's been very nice for me, so thank you. But as you were speaking just now, I thought of one of my mentors, was a guy named Andy Keaty, and he was the minister at St. Patrick's when I was there. And the impact in memories that ministers can have on you is profound. And listening to everybody talk, and it's really wonderful today. He called me Wiltsey. He was a born sergeant. He was a sergeant in the Army. He was a sergeant in the Baltimore police force. He was a born sergeant. Wiltsey, sometimes it's just easier to do the right thing. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. You know, I've never met a military guy or ex-military guy who could call me Iramadagi. If there's nothing else that folks wish to share at this point, I invite us to join together for a brief moment of silent prayer. After a little bit of time has gone by, I'll invite us all to join together in saying the new paraphrased version of the prayer of Jesus that's printed in the bulletin. Let us join together in silent prayer. Gracious Spirit, may we find your light and wisdom within us. May we recognize your light and wisdom within others. May we walk more intentionally and more joyfully this path of love and wisdom and peace until the day arrives when we all know deep in our being and in our bodies, love is the path and the destination. Hear us now as we say this new version of that ancient prayer that our brother Jesus taught us to pray, saying, Eternal Spirit, earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and that shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven. The hallowing of your name shall echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the earth. Your heavenly will be done by all created beings. Your commonwealth of peace and freedom sustain our hope and come on earth. With the bread we need for today, feed us. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation and strength, strengthen us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen. So now we have time for any announcements people want to make. I will draw your attention to the ones in the bulletin. This coming Tuesday, a link will go out to a pre-recorded meditation service you can view via the Zoom link. On Wednesday at 6:30 via Zoom, we've got our Board of Trustees meeting. And not this coming Saturday, but in 2 weeks from now, on August 31st, we have a wonderful sip and sup with a concert from a wonderful pianist, Electra Schmidt, who played here several months back. A lot of forehand music with Ian Scarf. Now she's going to be solo for this concert, and we hope that you will come. It's a fundraiser. We're asking for a minimum donation of $25 a person, and we would just be gleefully happy to accept more than that if you so choose. But please do call the Rileys and RSVP, because we may get to the point where we have to close RSVPs if there's certain limitations to the capacity at the Rileys' home. Are there any other announcements that folks have to make this morning? Well then, what is next? I invite all who are able to please stand and join in singing our closing hymn, number 725 in the hymnal, and we'll sing the first 2 verses and the last. Arise, shine out, your light has come. Share your truth with all you meet, and welcome the truth of others that is shared with you. Go forth